tonight we're diving into a UFO sighting that's really going to make you think twice about what's out there. Imagine a dark night at the Flanagan estate. And Carl Youngstrom, he claims a glowing spaceship touched down right there and invited him on board.
Well, you know what's really interesting about this case is that it's based on a real Project Bluebook investigation. It was even featured on the TV series Project UFO, so that means, the Air Force took it seriously, not just some fringe group. This was a legit investigation.
Yeah, and Youngstrom's account is full of these crazy vivid details, right? Like he describes this massive saucer, exhaust pipes, spinning wheels. He even talks about an open hatch. But here's where it gets really, really weird, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He says that he was actually invited inside the ship, saw incredibly advanced technology, and get this, he was given a loaf of bread as a gift.
And that bread actually becomes like the first piece of the puzzle here.
Okay.
Youngstrom thought it was like proof, right? Proof of his alien encounter. But when they actually analyze it, the lab report says it's just a simple pancake made from, regular everyday ingredients.
So we have conflicting evidence right off the bat. On the one hand, we have Youngstrom's testimony, which is pretty compelling, I gotta say. And then on the other hand, you have the scientific analysis that seems to debunk it. And then we have Major Gatlin and Sergeant Fitz, our Air Force investigators.
They're skeptical. Initially, right. They're suggesting that Youngstrom's grief over his granddaughter, Cynthia, her recent death, might be causing these hallucinations.
Yeah, and it's important to remember the historical context here, too.
Right.
During this time period, the government was under a ton of pressure.
Sure.
To explain all these UFO sightings while also kind of maintaining control over the whole narrative. And so labeling these witnesses as mentally unstable, well, that was like a quick and easy way to dismiss these cases and just move on.
So it seems like they might be trying to do that here.
Yeah.
But there's another layer to this story. Frederick Flanagan, a big-time businessman running for Senate,
Right.
takes a peculiar interest in Youngstrom's case. Why? Yeah, that raises some serious questions about his motives. Like, is he really interested in the truth about UFOs? Or is he trying to use this whole thing for political gain?
Yeah.
Maybe expose a government cover-up to get ahead in the polls.
So we have a potentially unreliable witness, skeptical investigators, and now a politician with his own agenda. This is getting complicated.
It is.
And then the tension, it really escalates. Flanagan confronts Major Gatlin and Sergeant Fitz. He reveals that he knows something that could discredit Youngstrom's entire account. Remember how Youngstrom mentioned that he built a dollhouse for his granddaughter, Cynthia? Flanagan knew that was impossible,
right?
Because Cynthia had actually drowned the previous summer. He reveals this little slip-up from Youngstrom's initial interview. They record those. So he's known all along that Youngstrom might be delusional. This kind of confirms, right, what the Air Force was thinking.
Yeah, it really seems like it.
Okay, maybe this UFO sighting was nothing more than a fantasy.
A grieving man's fantasy, yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like the case is closed, right?
It does.
Investigators are convinced it's all in Youngstrom's head. But just when you think you've got it all figured out.
Oh, boy.
Here we go.
Here comes the twist. Anita, the housekeeper, she comes forward. And she admits that she also witnessed the UFO landing. This, completely contradicts everything the Air Force said, right? And it throws everything we thought we knew into question. And what's really wild about Anita's testimony is that she didn't have anything to gain by coming forward. In fact, she risks losing her job. Her reputation could be on line here by going against what everyone's saying.
That's true, yeah. Makes you wonder, why would she lie?
Right, exactly.
If she's telling the truth, the Air Force's whole explanation just falls apart. It's like they were so focused on proving Youngstrom wrong, proving he was delusional, that they missed something really important.
Yeah. This case, it really highlights a pattern that we see in a lot of these UFO sightings. Instead of really truly investigating what happened, there's this tendency to just, label witnesses as unreliable or mentally unstable.
Right.
And that just shuts down the whole inquiry.
So are you saying there's a deliberate attempt to cover up UFO sightings? Why would they do that?
Well, the reasons behind a possible cover-up are complicated.
I bet.
And, a lot of it's just speculation. Some people think that the government's afraid of causing mass panic if the public knew about aliens. Right. Others say that they're protecting advanced technology that might have been recovered from crashed UFOs. But honestly, to say anything for sure, we need more evidence.
So while those theories are interesting, we need to stick to what we know. And what we know is that there's a lot we don't understand about UFOs. And it seems like the government is not exactly being transparent about what they do know.
Yeah.
Right.
That lack of transparency is a huge part of the problem. It just creates distrust and feeds all these conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I mean, how are we supposed to separate fact from fiction when it comes to UFOs?
That's the million-dollar question, right? I think we have to be critical thinkers. We have to carefully look at all the evidence and be open to the possibility that there's more out there than we can even imagine. But we can't just dismiss every UFO sighting as a hoax or a hallucination. You
Right.
can't just say, oh, that's an alien spacecraft every time we see something weird in the sky.
You're right, it's a tough balance.
It is.
And that's what makes these cases, like Youngstrom's, so fascinating. They make us confront the unknown and really challenge what we think we know. Well, it makes you think.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of, there's one detail from this case that I just can't get out of my head. Youngstrom's claimed that he was invited inside the spaceship, that he saw technology far beyond anything we have. He even mentioned this propulsion system that basically defies physics as we understand it. And of course, the Air Force just dismissed it all, said it was hallucinations. But
But what if he was telling the truth? What if there really are beings out there with technology that we can't even begin to comprehend?
right, I mean, that's a mind-blowing idea, isn't it? It changes everything we thought we knew about the universe, our place in it, science, technology, even what's real and what isn't.
Totally. It's a lot to take in.
This deep dive, it started with a simple UFO sighting, and now we're talking about the nature of reality. It's crazy.
I know, right? But that's the cool thing about exploring these topics.
Yeah.
The more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know. And that's what keeps us going, keeps us searching, asking questions.
For a while there, I thought this case was just about a man dealing with the loss of his granddaughter.
Uh-huh.
But it's so much more than that. It's
Yeah.
about perception, the power of belief, the mystery of it all.
Yeah, I like that. It reminds us that sometimes the truth is right there in front of us. We just have to be willing to see it.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an amazing deep dive, but we're not done yet. We'll be back with some final thoughts and suggestions for those of you who want to learn more about this stuff. Okay, so we're back and ready to kind of wrap up our deep dive into this amazing UFO encounter. We started with Carl Youngstrom's story. Then we had that lab analysis that kind of questioned his account. And then the Air Force, they're trying to explain it all away as a hallucination, but then, bam, Anita, the housekeeper, comes forward, says she saw it too.
Yeah, a lot of twists and turns, right? We talked about government cover-ups, whether or not these witnesses are credible, and even got into, well, the nature of reality itself. Big questions.
So where do we go from here? What did we learn? What can we take away from this whole thing?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that we got to stay curious. Keep asking questions, searching for the truth, no matter how strange it seems. This case is still unsolved. We might never know exactly what Carl Youngstrom saw that night, but that shouldn't stop us from trying to find out.
I agree with that, 100%. And for our listeners out there who are just as fascinated by this stuff as we are, I have a couple suggestions. First, check out the Project Bluebook archives. There's tons of declassified documents online about all these UFO sightings that the Air Force investigated. You never know what you might find.
Oh, yeah, that's a great resource. And, there are so many books and documentaries and podcasts out there, too. If you want to hear more firsthand accounts, check out stories from pilots, military personnel, even some scientists have had their own experiences. Just remember to keep an open mind, but also be critical of what you're hearing.
Right. Be skeptical, but don't shut yourself off to new ideas. And before we go, I want to leave you with something to think about. This is a quote from Major Gatlin. He said, "We're still missing something. I don't even know what to look for. I can't smell it or taste it or see it, but I can feel we're missing something. Something we miss because it's right in front of our eyes." Kind of spooky, right?
It is, yeah. And it sums up this whole deep dive perfectly. There might be more to the story than we can understand. Maybe we're overlooking something crucial.
The answers could be out there. Maybe all we need is a fresh perspective, a new way of looking at the evidence. Who knows what secrets are still waiting to be uncovered? That's all the time we have for tonight. But keep exploring, keep questioning, and never stop searching for the truth. Until next time, stay curious.